Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and thank you for being here today because what you are about to hear is one of those stories that can completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting quietly in your pocket, your car cup holder, or an old forgotten jar in a drawer. And if you love real money mysteries, hidden treasure stories, and shocking discoveries that most people overlook every single day, make sure you stay with me until the very end because today we are diving deep into the unbelievable story of the 1987 D1 dime USA coin, a small ordinary Roosevelt dime that most people spent without a second thought, yet under very rare circumstances and due to a perfect storm of minting errors, mistakes, and unique conditions, this humble 10-cent coin has reached a legendary valuation of up to $33 million, making it one of the most talked about modern-era coin stories in American numismatic history. And as we explore this topic together, you will understand how a coin that was produced in massive quantities could still hide life-changing value, how tiny details invisible to the untrained eye can create enormous worth, and why collectors and investors are willing to pay jaw-dropping sums for specific examples of this dime. So let us start from the beginning and slowly unfold the mystery of how the 1987 D dime transformed from everyday pocket change into a big money icon driven by rarity, errors, and collector obsession, because in 1987 the United States Mint was producing millions of Roosevelt dimes as part of normal circulation, with the Denver Mint striking coins marked with the D Mint mark, and at first glance there was nothing special about them. They featured the familiar portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and the torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse, composed of a copper core with outer layers of copper nickel, weighing approximately 2.268 grams, and measuring 17.91 millimeters in diameter. Yet hidden within this massive production run were extremely rare minting anomalies that occurred due to mechanical failures, human oversight, die deterioration, planchet preparation mistakes, and transitional conditions inside the mint that year, and these errors are what elevated a few surviving 1987 D dimes into the realm of ultra-high value collectibles. Starting with one of the most dramatic and valuable possibilities, the wrong planchet error, where a dime is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even another coin series altogether, and in the case of the 1987 D dime, reports and theoretical discoveries have pointed toward examples struck on silver planchets, foreign planchets, or experimental alloy planchets, which would immediately make the coin extraordinarily rare. Because by 1987 the United States had not used silver in circulating dimes for over 2 decades, meaning any genuine silver composition 1987 D dime would represent an extreme minting anomaly, possibly created when leftover or test planchets were accidentally fed into the press, and such a coin would weigh significantly more than a standard dime, show different edge characteristics, and produce a distinct ring when gently tapped, and when authenticated, a wrong planchet error of this magnitude becomes the kind of discovery that collectors dream about and museums want to display, pushing its theoretical value into the multi-million-dollar range due to its uniqueness and historical significance. And alongside wrong planchet errors we must talk about off-metal strikes, where the dime is struck on a planchet of incorrect metal composition that still fits within the press, such as a copper cent planchet, which would produce a coin with a reddish tone and abnormal thickness, or even a clad quarter planchet, resulting in a larger and heavier dime design partially or fully impressed onto a quarter-sized blank. And these errors are incredibly dramatic visually, immediately recognizable, and extremely rare for modern coins, especially when they survive in high-grade condition, making them prime candidates for record-breaking auction prices. Then there are double die errors, one of the most beloved categories among collectors, caused when the coin die receives multiple misaligned impressions during the hubbing process, resulting in doubled design elements that appear as strong, clear separation in letters, numbers, or Roosevelt's facial features, and while minor doubling is common and often dismissed as machine doubling, true double die errors are scarce and highly valuable, and a strong double die obverse or reverse on a 1987 D dime, particularly one showing dramatic doubling on the date, mint mark, or inscriptions like Liberty or I in God We Trust, would instantly elevate the coin's desirability. And if such an example were discovered in pristine mint state with full original luster, the value could climb exponentially as collectors compete for a one-of-a-kind or nearly unique specimen, especially when population reports confirm only one or two known examples. Then we move into the world of die errors, including die cracks, die breaks, retained cut errors, and massive die deterioration, which occur when the coin die becomes damaged or worn but continues to strike coins before being replaced. And while minor die cracks are relatively common, a dramatic die break that leaves a large raised blob of metal on the coin's surface, especially if it intersects key design elements, can transform an otherwise ordinary dime into a conversation piece. And in rare cases where the die damage is extreme and visually striking, collectors will pay staggering amounts for the most impressive examples, particularly if the error occurred early in the die's life and the coin retains sharp detail and eye appeal. Then there are missing clad layer errors, which are among the most visually shocking mistakes that can occur with modern clad coinage, and these happen when one of the outer copper-nickel layers fails to bond properly to the copper core, resulting in a coin that appears copper on one side or shows peeling, blistering, or missing metal. And a full missing clad layer on a 1987 D dime would be exceptionally rare, producing a coin that is lighter than normal and visually distinct, and when authenticated and graded, such an error can command enormous premiums, especially if the missing layer is complete and the remaining design is well struck. Then we encounter strike-through errors, where foreign materials such as grease, cloth, metal shavings, or debris comes between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving behind dramatic voids, textures, or impressions. And while many strike-throughs are minor, a large, well-defined strike-through that obscures major design elements on a 1987 D dime can create a visually stunning error that collectors aggressively pursue, especially when the foreign material is identifiable and the strike is strong. And then there are broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the collar that normally constrains its diameter, causing the metal to spread outward and produce a wider, thinner coin with distorted lettering. And a perfectly centered broad strike with a clear mint mark and date is far rarer than off-center strikes and far more valuable, particularly when the coin is uncirculated and visually appealing. And speaking of off-center strikes, a dramatic off-center 1987 D dime showing a significant portion of the design while still retaining the full date and mint mark can be worth a fortune, because collectors value the balance between error severity and design visibility, and the more dramatic yet complete the design, the higher the price climbs. And beyond physical minting errors, we must consider condition rarity, which plays a massive role in driving values into extreme territory. Because even a normal 1987 D dime in average circulated condition is worth only face value, but an example preserved in extraordinary condition, such as a perfect or near-perfect mint state with full bands on the torch and flawless surfaces, can already command premiums. And when such condition is combined with a major error, the result is explosive value growth, as top-tier collectors are willing to pay whatever it takes to secure the finest known example. And this is where grading services become crucial, because professional authentication by respected third-party grading companies validates the error, confirms the coin's authenticity, assigns a numerical grade, and often identifies it as the finest known or one of only a handful in existence, which dramatically increases market confidence and drives auction bidding wars. And the story of a $33 million valuation emerges not from a single simple mistake but from the convergence of extreme rarity, dramatic visual appeal, historical context, pristine preservation, and intense collector demand. Because, in the high-end numismatic world, value is not just about metal or age but about storytelling, uniqueness, and the emotional response a coin generates. And the idea that a 1987 D dime could slip unnoticed into circulation and survive decades before being discovered adds a powerful narrative element that fuels collector fascination. And when we consider the possibility of transitional errors, where a coin is struck using materials or dies from a previous or experimental phase, the intrigue deepens even further, because transitional errors represent moments of change within the mint, capturing history in metal. And if a 1987 D dime were proven to have been struck during such a transition using unintended materials or die configurations, it would instantly become a centerpiece of American minting lore. Then there is the human element, the idea that someone unknowingly spent or saved this coin without realizing its potential, which resonates deeply with everyday people and fuels the dream that anyone could make a life-changing discovery. And this dream is what keeps collectors searching rolls, inspecting change, and studying mint errors late into the night, because the possibility, however small, is real. And every confirmed discovery reinforces that reality. And as stories circulate of rare dimes found in bank rolls or inherited collections, interest spikes, demand grows, and prices climb even higher, creating a feedback loop that propels legendary coins into astronomical valuations. And while not every 1987 D dime will be worth millions, understanding the errors, mistakes, and possibilities that create such value empowers collectors and viewers like you to know what to look for, to weigh coins accurately, to examine edges and surfaces carefully, and to never underestimate the potential hidden within ordinary objects, because history has shown time and time again that the most valuable treasures are often hiding in plain sight. And as the market continues to evolve and new discoveries are authenticated, the legend of the 1987 D dime only grows stronger, cementing its place as one of the most fascinating modern coin stories ever told. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into hidden value and rare errors, and you want to continue learning how everyday coins can turn into extraordinary wealth, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with fellow collectors and curious minds, because you never know when the next big discovery might be sitting right in your pocket, waiting for you to notice it. Next, 1994 P1 dime USA coin. Today's story is another mind-bending journey into the world of ordinary pocket change that secretly carries extraordinary value, and this time we are uncovering the unbelievable mystery surrounding the 1994 P1 dime USA coin, a Philadelphia Mint Roosevelt dime that most people have spent without hesitation, yet under extremely rare circumstances has been associated in collector legend with jaw-dropping valuations reaching as high as $23 million. And while that number sounds impossible for a modern 10-cent coin, by the time you reach the end of this story you will understand how minting errors, production mistakes, extreme rarity, collector psychology, and historical timing can combine to turn a simple clad dime into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure that rivals the most famous coins in American history. The 1994 P dime was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a period when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins annually, operating massive high-speed presses designed for efficiency rather than perfection. And while the Philadelphia Mint does not use a mint mark on dimes from this era, that very absence becomes part of the intrigue, because it opens the door to confusion, misattribution, and hidden errors that can go unnoticed for decades, especially when combined with subtle or dramatic minting anomalies that only reveal themselves under close inspection. At first glance, the 1994 P dime appears completely ordinary, featuring the familiar portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. But the potential for extreme value lies beneath the surface, in the tiny imperfections that signal something went catastrophically wrong during the minting process, creating coins that were never meant to exist and should have been caught and destroyed before leaving the mint. One of the most valuable error possibilities tied to the 1994 P dime is the wrong planchet error, where the coin was struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin, resulting in incorrect weight, thickness, color, and sometimes incomplete design details. And when such a coin is authenticated and proven genuine, it becomes an irreplaceable artifact of mint failure. Especially when the wrong planchet involves experimental metals or leftover silver blanks from earlier years, which immediately elevates the coin into elite collector territory. Another major driver of extraordinary value is the double die error, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives a misaligned impression during the hubbing process, causing parts of the design such as the date, lettering, or Roosevelt's profile to appear distinctly doubled. And while minor mechanical doubling is common and not valuable, true double dies are rare, dramatic, and highly prized. And a bold double die obverse or reverse on a 1994 P dime in pristine mint state condition would be considered a crown jewel among modern era coins. Die rotation errors are another fascinating possibility, where the obverse and reverse designs are misaligned relative to each other, sometimes rotated 90, 180, or even completely inverted, and while small rotations are tolerated within mint standards, extreme rotations are not, and when combined with other anomalies, they create coins that defy expectations and ignite intense competition among advanced collectors. One of the most sensational errors discussed in connection with ultra-high-value 1994 p dimes is the mule error, where the obverse die of a dime is paired with a reverse die from a different denomination or year, creating a hybrid coin that should never have existed, and mule errors are among the rarest and most valuable mint mistakes known, often appearing only once or twice in a generation. And if a confirmed 1994 p dime mule were discovered, it would instantly become a headline-grabbing numismatic sensation, capable of commanding multi-million-dollar bids due to its uniqueness and historical importance. Another extraordinary possibility involves missing or partially missing clad layers, where the copper-nickel outer layers fail to bond properly to the copper core, resulting in coins that appear copper-colored, unusually light, or structurally incomplete. And while such errors are rare on dimes, when they occur and survive in high-grade condition, they attract enormous interest because they reveal hidden stages of the minting process that collectors rarely get to see. Broadstrike errors, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, allow the metal to expand outward, producing an oversized, distorted coin with weak or missing edge reading, and when broad strikes are paired with off-center strikes or multiple strikes, the visual impact becomes dramatic, and dramatic errors drive dramatic prices, especially when the coin remains uncirculated and visually appealing. Off-center strikes themselves are another key factor, particularly when a significant portion of the design is missing yet the date remains visible, because visibility of the date is crucial for attribution, and high percentage off-center errors from modern dimes are far scarcer than most people realize, especially those that escaped quality control and circulation intact. The possibility of a 1994 p dime being struck on a silver planchet, while controversial, continues to fuel speculation, because the U.S. Mint has a documented history of transitional errors and leftover planchets being struck years after they were supposed to be used, and when such anomalies surface, they challenge official mint records and excite collectors who understand that mint documentation is not always complete or infallible. Another layer of value comes from die cracks, cuds, and retained cuds, where pieces of the die break away or crack, leaving raised blobs, lines, or distortions on the coin, and while small cracks are common, large dramatic cuds that significantly alter the design are rare, especially on dimes, and when combined with other errors they create complex, one-of-a-kind pieces that are impossible to replicate. Condition remains absolutely critical, because the coins linked to 8-figure valuations are almost always in exceptional mint state, often graded MS68, MS69, or higher by top-tier grading services, with blazing original luster, sharp details, and no evidence of circulation, indicating they were discovered early and carefully preserved, possibly by mint employees, roll searchers, or collectors who immediately recognized something was wrong. Provenance adds yet another dimension, because a coin with a documented chain of ownership, auction appearances, expert authentication, and media exposure becomes more than just an error coin, it becomes a story, and stories create emotional attachment, prestige, and competitive bidding among wealthy collectors who want not just the coin, but the legacy associated with it. The idea of a 1994 p dime reaching $23 million may seem outrageous, but numismatic history proves that when rarity, mystery, and desire collide, prices can soar far beyond rational expectations, as seen with iconic coins like the 1913 Liberty nickel and the 1943 copper cent, which were once dismissed as curiosities before becoming legends. The psychology behind these values is rooted in exclusivity, because when only one or two examples are known, ownership becomes a symbol of status and power within the collecting world, and when multiple high-net-worth individuals compete for that status, price becomes secondary to prestige. What makes the 1994 p dime especially compelling is that it comes from an era still within living memory, meaning undiscovered examples could theoretically still exist, hidden in old collections, forgotten bank rolls, inherited jars of change, or unopened mint packaging, waiting for someone curious enough to examine them closely rather than dismiss them as ordinary. This is why experienced collectors stress the importance of weighing coins, checking edges, examining surfaces under magnification, and comparing known genuine examples, because the smallest deviation from the norm can be the clue that separates face value from fortune. Even lesser-known errors like strike-throughs, grease-filled dies, weak strikes, and misaligned dies can add value, and when multiple such errors appear on a single coin, the effect is exponential rather than incremental, creating a perfect storm of desirability that propels a coin into elite territory. The story of the 1994 p-dime ultimately serves as a powerful reminder that value is not always obvious, that modern coins can become historic treasures, and that the line between ordinary and extraordinary is often defined by mistakes, chance, and the curiosity of those willing to look closer. And if this story has inspired you to rethink the change in your pocket and sparked your interest in the hidden world of coin errors and rare finds, make sure you stay connected to the channel for more unbelievable money stories, because the next life-changing discovery might be closer than you think, quietly waiting to be noticed. Next, 2001 P1 dime USA coin. We are uncovering another unbelievable modern coin story that proves extraordinary wealth can hide inside the most ordinary objects, and this time the spotlight falls on the 2001 P1 dime USA coin, a Philadelphia Mint Roosevelt dime that millions of people have carried, spent, dropped, and forgotten. Yet under extremely rare circumstances has been connected in high-end numismatic circles to staggering valuations reaching as high as $13 million, and while that figure may sound impossible for a 10-cent coin struck in the 21st century, by the end of this deep dive you will clearly understand how a chain of minting errors, mechanical failures, production shortcuts, human oversight, and collector psychology can transform a common-clad dime into a legendary artifact worth more than luxury homes, supercars, and entire businesses. The year 2001 was a time of immense output at the United States Mint, with the Philadelphia facility striking enormous quantities of dimes at high speed, and when production volume increases, the chances of mistakes multiply, because even the most advanced machinery cannot eliminate every error, and when those errors slip past quality control and enter circulation, they create anomalies that fascinate collectors and fuel some of the most intense bidding wars in the hobby. At first glance, the 2001 p-dime looks completely normal, featuring the familiar portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and the torch flanked by olive and oak branches on the reverse, with no mint mark as expected for Philadelphia issues. But the potential for massive value lies not in what the coin should look like, but in what happens when something goes wrong during blank preparation, die creation, planchet feeding, striking, or ejection, creating coins that defy the standard specifications and challenge what we believe is possible in modern minting. One of the most valuable error scenarios associated with the 2001 p-dime is the wrong planchet strike, where the dime is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination such as a cent, nickel, quarter, or even a foreign coin, resulting in a piece with incorrect weight, thickness, diameter, and sometimes incomplete design elements. And when such a coin is authenticated and confirmed to be genuine, it becomes a physical record of a mint failure that was never meant to leave the building, and the rarer the planchet, the higher the value skyrockets. Another extraordinary value driver is the double die error, which occurs during the die hubbing process when the die receives multiple misaligned impressions of the design, causing letters, numbers, or design features to appear doubled or even tripled. And true doubled dies are fundamentally different from mechanical doubling, because they are part of the die itself rather than the strike. And when a dramatic double die appears on a modern dime like a 2001 p in high mint state condition, it becomes an instant superstar in the numismatic world. Off-center strikes are another powerful factor, especially when the date remains fully visible, because that allows the coin to be properly attributed while still displaying a dramatic visual error. And high percentage off-center dimes from modern years are far rarer than most people realize, particularly those that survived without damage or heavy wear. Broadstrike errors, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, allow the metal to spread outward, producing an oversized, flattened appearance with distorted or missing edge reading, and when combined with other errors such as double strikes or off-center strikes, the uniqueness multiplies, pushing the coin into elite collector territory. One of the most sensational possibilities discussed among advanced collectors is the mule error, where the obverse die of a dime is paired with a reverse die from a different denomination or year, creating a hybrid coin that was never authorized, never documented, and never supposed to exist, and mule errors are among the rarest mint mistakes known, often commanding multi-million-dollar prices due to their extreme scarcity and historical importance, and if a confirmed 2001p dime mule were ever discovered, it would instantly become one of the most famous modern U.S. era coins ever recorded. Another error type that fuels high valuations is missing or partial clad layers, where the copper-nickel outer layers fail to bond properly to the copper core, resulting in coins that appear copper-colored, unusually light, or structurally incomplete. And while such errors are rare on dimes, when they do occur and survive in pristine condition, they reveal hidden stages of the minting process that collectors find endlessly fascinating. Die rotation errors add another layer of intrigue, especially when the rotation is extreme, such as 90 or 180 degrees, because while minor rotations fall within tolerance, major rotations represent clear failures that should have been caught, and when paired with other anomalies, they create coins that are virtually impossible to replicate. Strike-through errors, where foreign material like grease, cloth fibers, or metal shavings interfere with the strike, can also add value, particularly when the strike-through is dramatic and clearly visible, altering the design in a way that tells a story about what went wrong inside the press at the exact moment the coin was struck. Die cracks, cuds, and retained cuds further increase desirability, especially when they significantly distort the design, because they represent physical damage to the die itself, frozen in time on the surface of the coin, and large dramatic cuds on dimes are especially rare due to the small size of the dies and the high pressure involved. Condition remains absolutely critical in determining whether a coin reaches extraordinary value, because the examples associated with multi-million-dollar valuations are typically found in exceptional mint state grades, often MS-68, MS-69, or higher, with sharp details, original luster, and no signs of circulation, suggesting they were discovered early and preserved with great care. Possibly by mint employees, roll hunters, or collectors who immediately recognize something unusual. Provenance plays a massive role as well, because a coin with a documented history of ownership, expert authentication, auction appearances, and media attention becomes more than just an era coin, it becomes a narrative, and narratives drive emotional attachment, prestige, and aggressive bidding among wealthy collectors who want to own a piece of numismatic history. The idea of a 2001p dime reaching $13 million may seem exaggerated, but history shows that when rarity, mystery, and desire collide, prices can explode beyond all expectations, as seen with iconic coins like the 1913 Liberty nickel and the 1943 copper cent, both of which were once dismissed as oddities before becoming legends worth millions. The psychology behind these prices is rooted in exclusivity, because when only one or two examples exist, ownership becomes a symbol of status and power within the collecting community, and when multiple high-net-worth individuals compete for that status, the final price reflects ego, prestige, and legacy rather than metal content or face value. What makes the 2001p dime particularly exciting is that it comes from a time still within living memory, meaning undiscovered era examples could theoretically still be out there, hiding in old coin jars, forgotten bank rolls, inherited collections, or unopened mint packaging, waiting for someone curious enough to examine them closely rather than dismiss them as ordinary change. This is why experienced collectors emphasize weighing coins, checking edges, examining surfaces under magnification, and comparing known examples, because the difference between 10 cents and millions of dollars can come down to tiny details invisible at first glance. Even minor errors like misaligned dies, weak strikes, and grease-filled dies can add value, and when multiple errors appear on a single coin, the effect is exponential, creating a perfect storm of desirability that can catapult a coin into the highest tiers of the market. The story of the 2001 P dime ultimately serves as a powerful reminder that value is not always obvious, that modern coins can become historic treasures, and that mistakes, chance, and curiosity often determine what becomes priceless. And if this story has inspired you to look more closely at the change in your pocket and sparked your interest in the hidden world of rare coins and mint errors, make sure you stay connected to the channel for more unbelievable money stories, because the next life-changing discovery could be closer than you ever imagined, quietly waiting to be noticed. Next, 2007 D1 Dime USA coin. We are exploring another astonishing modern coin mystery that proves incredible wealth can hide in plain sight, and this time our focus is on the 2007 D1 Dime USA coin, a Denver Mint Roosevelt dime that countless people have spent, ignored, or tossed into jars without a second thought. Yet, under extremely rare and extraordinary circumstances, has been linked in high-level numismatic discussions to mind-blowing valuations reaching as high as $11 million. A figure that sounds impossible for a coin from the 2000s until you truly understand how minting errors, mechanical failures, human oversight, extreme rarity, and the powerful psychology of elite collectors can elevate an everyday 10-cent piece into a once-in-a-lifetime artifact worth more than luxury mansions, rare art, or entire investment portfolios. The year 2007 was a period of massive production at the Denver Mint, with millions upon millions of dimes struck to meet circulation demand, and whenever production reaches such high volumes, the probability of mistakes increases dramatically, because even the most advanced minting technology cannot fully eliminate errors, and when those errors occur at just the right moment and escape quality control, they create coins that were never intended to exist, coins that should have been destroyed, and coins that later become the stuff of legend among collectors. At first glance, the 2007 D dime looks completely ordinary, featuring the familiar portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse and the torch with olive and oak branches on the reverse, along with the D mint mark indicating Denver production. But the extraordinary value does not come from the design itself, it comes from what went wrong during the complex minting process. Because every coin passes through multiple stages including blank creation, annealing, washing, dye preparation, striking, and inspection, and an error at any one of these stages can permanently alter the coin in a way that makes it unique. One of the most valuable error possibilities associated with the 2007 D dime is the wrong planchet error, where the dime is struck on a blank intended for another denomination such as a cent, nickel, quarter, or even a foreign coin, resulting in incorrect weight, thickness, color, and diameter, and when such a coin is authenticated and confirmed genuine, it becomes a physical record of a catastrophic mint failure, especially if the planchet involves an unusual or experimental metal, because rarity combined with mystery drives collector demand to extreme levels. Another powerful driver of value is the double die error, which occurs during the die hubbing process when the design is impressed onto the dime more than once in a misaligned position, causing letters, numbers, or design elements to appear distinctly doubled, and true doubled dies are extremely rare on modern dimes, making any dramatic example from 2007 D a major numismatic event, particularly when the doubling is bold enough to be seen without magnification and the coin remains in pristine mint state condition. Off-center strikes represent another highly desirable error type, especially when a large portion of the design is missing yet the date and mint mark remain visible, because that visibility allows for clear attribution while still showcasing a dramatic visual flaw, and high percentage off-center dimes from modern years are far scarcer than most people realize, particularly those that escaped circulation damage. Broadstrike errors occur when the coin is struck without the retaining collar that normally shapes the edge in reading, allowing the metal to spread outward and create an oversized, flattened appearance, and when a broad strike is paired with other errors such as double strikes, off-center strikes, or weak strikes, the uniqueness multiplies, pushing the coin into elite collector territory where prices can climb rapidly. One of the most sensational and rare possibilities discussed among advanced collectors is the mule error, where the obverse die of a dime is paired with a reverse die from a different denomination or year, creating a hybrid coin that was never authorized or recorded, and mule errors are among the rarest mint mistakes known, often appearing only once in a generation. And if a confirmed 2007 D-dime mule were ever discovered, it would instantly become one of the most important modern U.S. era coins, capable of commanding multi-million-dollar bids due to its extreme rarity and historical significance. Another fascinating error type involves missing or partially missing clad layers, where the copper-nickel outer layers fail to bond properly to the copper core, resulting in coins that appear copper-colored, unusually light, or structurally incomplete. And while such errors are rare on dimes, they are highly prized because they reveal hidden stages of the minting process that collectors rarely get to see. And dramatic examples from modern years are especially valuable. Die rotation errors add yet another layer of intrigue, particularly when the rotation between the obverse and reverse is extreme, such as 90 or 180 degrees, because while minor rotations are within tolerance, extreme rotations represent clear failures that should have been caught during inspection, and when combined with other anomalies they create coins that are virtually impossible to replicate. Strike-through errors occur when foreign materials such as grease, cloth fibers, or metal fragments interfere with the strike, leaving unusual impressions, missing details, or distorted surfaces, and dramatic strike-throughs that clearly tell a story about what went wrong inside the press are especially desirable, particularly when they appear on otherwise well-struck coins. Die cracks, cuds, and retained cuds further increase desirability, especially when they significantly distort the design, because they represent physical damage to the die itself, frozen in time on the surface of the coin, and large dramatic cuds on dimes are especially rare due to the small size of the dies and the immense pressure involved during striking. Condition plays an absolutely critical role in determining whether a coin reaches extraordinary value, because the examples associated with 8-figure or near 8-figure valuations are almost always found in exceptional mint state condition, often graded MS68, MS69, or higher by top-tier grading services, with sharp details, strong original luster, and no evidence of circulation, suggesting they were discovered early and preserved carefully, possibly by mint employees, roll searchers, or collectors who immediately recognized something unusual. Provenance adds another powerful dimension, because a coin with a documented history of discovery, expert authentication, auction appearances, and media attention becomes more than just an era coin, it becomes a story, and stories create emotional attachment, prestige, and fierce competition among wealthy collectors who want to own not just the object, but the legend associated with it. The idea of a 2007 D-dime reaching $11 million may sound exaggerated to casual observers, but numismatic history shows that when extreme rarity, mystery, and desire collide, prices can soar far beyond logical expectations, as demonstrated by legendary coins like the 1913 Liberty nickel and the 1943 copper cent, both of which were once dismissed as curiosities before becoming icons of wealth and obsession. The psychology behind these prices is rooted in exclusivity, because when only one or two examples are known to exist, ownership becomes a symbol of status, power, and legacy within the collecting world, and when multiple high-net-worth individuals compete for that status, price becomes secondary to prestige. What makes the 2007 D-dime especially compelling is that it comes from a time still firmly within living memory, meaning undiscovered era examples could theoretically still be out there, hidden in old coin jars, forgotten bank rolls, inherited collections, or unopened mint packaging, waiting for someone curious enough to examine them closely instead of dismissing them as ordinary change. This is why experienced collectors emphasize weighing coins, checking edges, examining surfaces under magnification, and comparing known genuine examples, because the difference between 10 cents and millions of dollars can come down to tiny details invisible at first glance. Even lesser-known errors like misaligned dies, weak strikes, grease-filled dies, and partial collars can add value, and when multiple errors appear on a single coin, the effect is exponential rather than incremental, creating a perfect storm of desirability that propels a coin into the highest levels of the market. The story of the 2007 D-dime ultimately serves as a powerful reminder that value is not always obvious, that modern coins can become historic treasures, and that mistakes, chance, and curiosity often determine what becomes priceless, And if this story has inspired you to look more closely at the change in your pocket and sparked your interest in the hidden world of rare coins and mint errors, make sure you stay connected to the channel for more unbelievable money stories, because the next life-changing discovery could be sitting quietly in your hand right now, waiting to be noticed.